Welcome. It's another edition of Speed Chronicles. Comes up every Wednesday here on the RevTV YouTube channel. We thank you for checking out this week's edition at Todd Lewis Sports, at RevTV, the socials, and X and Instagram to follow along and get updates and provide a little feedback if you wish as well. We do it every Wednesday, just looking at some of the big stories in motorsports and racing from across the spectrum, around the world, around the corner, wherever. Locally, I was not at the NASCAR Canada race this past weekend, unfortunately. Conflict. This race at Delaware Speedway was supposed to take place a few weeks ago, but of course, weather got in the way of that, and that meant they rescheduled to this past weekend. Todd was already booked to be a part of the 3 days of Drive Festival at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, so unfortunately had to miss that one. But of course, right near the end of the day, as we're wrapping up at Drive Festival, as those of us in motorsports do, is just we follow along. So you're hopping online, you're following the timing and scoring, you're trying to catch the video where you can, and Kevin Lacroix scores another victory. So doing his best to climb up as high as he can in the championship, and good for him. That's a nice victory. He's on a pretty good run with a back-to-back at CTMP and then a win at Delaware Speedway. It'll all wrap up in a week and a half at the Autodrome Montmagny. Haven't been there in a long time, so I'm anxious to see the place. It's apparently undergone some rather extensive renovations, and I'm looking forward to seeing it there and wrapping up the 2024 NASCAR Canada season. It just feels like we started not that long ago, and here we are at the end of the 2024 season. That'll, of course, begin the long off season, which we'll have lots of time to dive into and talk about. And as we reflect back on the good, the bad, the in the middle somewhere parts of the 2024 season, and we'll look back in the weeks ahead. But there's a lot of good, a lot of reasons for optimism, a lot of reasons for excitement. I'm not looking at it through rose-colored glasses. I know there's areas that need to be looked at and addressed. Field size, partners, schedule, and a bunch of other things as well. So let's accept the good things and understand that there are very good things and good foundational pieces about the series, but understand that there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done to grow it into help reaching its potential. Because that's the one thing that really hasn't changed with me in terms of this series is it's a love, it's a long time love, and there's a great deal of potential. It's great for partners that want to get involved. It's great for teams that want to get involved, and it's great for fans, which is the best part. So we'll see what I expect to be a very busy off season comes up with. But look forward to the conclusion coming up at the Autodrome Montmagny in about a week and a half. I did quick math, so always never trust Todd's math because that was never my favorite thing. But it looks to me that if Marc-Antoine Camirand finishes 15th or better in the final event, he clinches the championship, which is a pretty comfortable margin for Mark. It should be his, but you never know what might happen. So we'll wait and see. But I just grazed by Drive Fest, so I should talk a little bit about that because it's a terrific event. If you haven't been and you're in the vicinity, we're hearing stories of folks that come an awful long way to attend every year. Really cool event. It's much more than just a car show because there are car clubs and there are manufacturers that have cars on display, but you can get test drives as well. And they have some incredible other vehicles of all shapes and sizes, whether it's super luxurious, whether it's hypercars and exotic cars, your run-of-the-mill Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Maseratis and Rolls-Royce and all the rest of it. It's a cool, fun show, and it's great to be a part of it again this year. Really enjoyed myself. Weather was a bit iffy and a bit uncomfortable at times, but sure didn't slow down the crowds because the parking areas were jammed and it was a steady stream of people coming in every day, which was really nice to see, and by all accounts another great success. So looking forward to that. IndyCar had a week off, but come back this week with their season finale in Nashville. No, not the street race, but on the oval. So we talked a little bit about the IndyCar ovals last week. I am, as I was with Milwaukee, curious to see how this plays out, curious to see how it looks. The reports are that they've been selling some tickets, but are pounding the pavement and doing their best to get as many people out as possible. A challenge, because it's 40 minutes outside the city. They're doing some activations downtown with pit stop challenge and burnout contests and the rest, and that's cool. That hopefully translates into people at the track. Lots of fans keep bitching about wanting more ovals. Well, you got Milwaukee, you got Nashville. Come out and support them. The racing at Milwaukee was good. The crowd was good as a good starting point. Let's see how this one goes. It's going to be on the oval for a couple of years because of the schmozzle that took place in Nashville. So it's on an oval for a couple of years. We'll see what happens with this particular event. NASCAR is on the road course at Watkins Glen. Weather looks like it's going to be good this weekend, which is nice. Can get a little iffy in September sometimes. So that's why I think Watkins Glen is better as an August race, but it's in September. I was really a little surprised, stunned, shocked, flummoxed to hear a few weeks ago that one of those in the race for the NASCAR Cup Series this weekend, Watkins Glen, is Juan Pablo Montoya. Oh, where did that come from? And of course, yeah, the usual Juan Pablo Montoya jokes. But I don't know how he's going to do. He's not driving full time anymore. He stepped back from that. Hasn't driven in NASCAR for a number of years. But make no mistake, Juan Montoya can wheel a car. If you watched him race, whether it was in IndyCar, whether it was in NASCAR, whether it was in Formula One, he can drive a race car. He is a very talented driver. I don't know how his skills are going to be in the NASCAR Cup Series at 49. Kind of curious to see, though. He can be a little prickly at times when you talk to him or interview him, but a talented racer for sure. Let's blend the story of NASCAR and IndyCar, because the blend is going to take place again with Kyle Larson, officially announced this past week that he will again attempt the double. That, of course, being racing the Indianapolis 500 early in the day, hopping on a plane, heading to Charlotte to race in the Coca-Cola 600 that evening. We all know about the debacle that took place last year. Indy 500 delayed by rain. Larson showed himself very well. He has acclimated himself very well to IndyCar. Now, I don't think anybody should be surprised at that. There isn't anything that he can't drive and figure out. But of course, the rain impacted both events. It delayed the start of the Indianapolis 500. By the time Larson had arrived in Charlotte to race in the 600, rain had suspended that event. It never restarted. He never got in the car. We had to wait to see what NASCAR was going to decide in terms of whether or not he would be granted a waiver to get into the playoffs after missing the event. They came to their senses and said, yes, he'll be allowed to participate in the playoffs as he makes it. And of course, that question was brought up this year as the official announcement takes place that Larson is going to again attempt the double with the McLaren Indy 500 ride and then heading back to the Hendrick ride in NASCAR. And NASCAR is the priority. NASCAR, of course, is the priority. And that's the right answer. That's exactly the answer you would expect to give. But let me present this scenario. Kyle Larson is leading the Indianapolis 500. It's not a big stretch. Ran very well last year. Didn't look the least bit out of place. What if he's leading the Indianapolis 500 and it's the late stages and we're getting to the point where it might be difficult for him to pull into pit lane, get out of the car, get in the private jet, fly to Charlotte, get into his normal ride for Rick Hendrick and participate so as not to have to go through that nightmare of will he or won't he get a waiver for the playoffs. What if this is happening? I know it's a long shot, but I like to think about stuff like this. It's kind of an interesting thought. We'll wait and see. I'm glad Kyle Larson's doing it again. He's a talented race car driver, and I think it's good for IndyCar and the Indy 500 to have him participating and trying to do the double again this year. Formula One gets back in action. Also, a Formula One announcement, of course, the Adrian Newey to Aston Martin. This should not come as a surprise to anyone because this has been speculated and talked about for, oh, goodness knows how long. Is he coming? Will he be coming? Yes, he's coming for an awful lot of money and apparently a bit of an ownership stake, and he's going to work full time on the Formula One program. And this is what Aston Martin wanted. And most importantly, the Strolls wanted, and he's there. So we'll see. This will start for the, of course, on the 26 car. The 25 car is already well under development. I don't know how much impact he's going to have on that, but in the future, Adrian Newey, an incredible success in Formula One. Can he repeat? Can he bring Aston Martin to the top of the pile? We'll see. The best part is with Formula One resuming again this weekend, the battle resumes, whether it's the driver's title and everybody trying to run down the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. It's possible. It's a big lead, but certainly not insurmountable. In that Constructors' Championship, absolutely up for grabs. So excited to see how that plays out. And we'll finish up this edition of Speed Chronicles with a bit of a serious note because of the day that we're recording this. September the 11th, 9/11. And of course, 23 years ago on September the 11th, 2001, everybody's world changed forever. The terrorist attacks that took place in the United States, so much confusion and disarray and a terrible tragedy that took place that day. It was very tough and difficult and emotional on all of us. And there are heroes from those days that are still suffering in the pain from some of the injuries and from the recovery of those that perished. Always take a moment to think about this day. I always do. It's significant to remember what took place on September the 11th. And I feel a special affinity and closeness to it as well, because it's also my birthday. And I'm happily sharing and giving all acknowledgement and credit to those heroes of 9/11. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for checking out this week's edition of Speed Chronicles. We do it every Wednesday. We'll be back again with another edition to talk about whatever stories happen to captivate us in NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, and whatever other disciplines we can find in the next week. Have a great week ahead.